Rocket 102.5.
Today will be partly cloudy with west-southwesterly winds at 5 to 10 miles per hour, turning to the north at 15 to 25 late this afternoon and evening as the cold front swings through. Highs will top out in the 70 to 75 degree range. Scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms are likely during the evening hours. Those storms are most likely not severe, while overnight lows drop into the 40 to 45 degree range. Tomorrow, behind the front, will be cloudier and cooler with temperatures in the upper 60s and lows in the lower 40s. Friday and Saturday, the region will be under a high-pressure ridge. Sunny skies, dry conditions with highs in the 70 to 75 degree range and lows 40 to 45. And winds will generally be blowing at 10 to 20 miles per hour. Sunday, a large trough will develop out west and begin showers and thunderstorms across the area starting Sunday night and continuing Monday and Tuesday. This meteorologist Chris Romick in the NWKS Radio Weather Center.
Goodland Furniture and Sleep Center is your home for no interest for up to 18 months. They have it all: furniture, mattresses, appliances, plus the lowest price guarantee. Delivery is available. Find your comfort at home with Goodland Furniture and Sleep Center with no interest for up to 18 months. Located on 17th Street in Goodland, Kansas, and around the world at goodlandfurniture.com.
Spring is in full swing at Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware. Get your lawn and garden looking their best with Ultimate Fertilizer and gear up with Eco blowers and mowers for the season ahead. Tackling a project, they've got a surplus of quality lumber ready for all your building needs. And when the work's done, fire up the fun with their wide selection of grills, smokers, and griddles from Traeger, Weber, and Blackstone. Stop by Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware in Goodland and Colby, your one-stop shop for spring projects, big and small.
Get ready for powerful deals at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Right now, drive home a 25 GMC Sierra 1500 Turbo Max with 0.9% financing or up to $7,800 in purchase allowance. Step up in luxury in a 2025 Sierra 1500 Denali and get up to $5,250 in purchase allowance. Or take on any job with the 25 Sierra 2500 with 3.9% APR or up to $2,700 in purchase allowance. These offers won't last. Rush into Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland today or shop online at hurlchev.com.
Looking for insurance that actually puts you first? At the insurance agency in downtown Goodland, we're independent, which means we work for you. Whether it's auto, home, crop, or business, we shop top carriers to get you the best coverage at the best price. No pushy sales, just honest advice from people who live right here in your community. Give us a call today at 785-899-5011 or stop by 1020 Main in Goodland and let's get you covered. The insurance agency. Insurance the way it should be.
At FNB Bank, we understand the backbone of our community is our local farmers and ranchers. Whether you're growing crops, raising livestock, or investing in new equipment, we're here to help you succeed. Our agricultural loans are tailored to meet the unique needs of your farm, with flexible terms from people who understand what it takes to make it in agriculture. When you partner with FNB Bank, you're working with neighbors who know the land and are invested in your success. FNB Bank, rooted in our community, growing with you. Member FDIC.
Your Cheyenne County Hospital in St. Francis offers you a quality rehabilitation department. This includes a variety of staff that provides physical therapy, occupational therapy, aquatic therapy, speech therapy, and women's health. To schedule an appointment, call 785-332-2104. Again, that's 785-332-2104. The Cheyenne County Hospital on 210 West Street in St. Francis.
Happy Community Bank Month from all of us at Farmers State Bank of Oakley. We're proud to be your local bank, rooted and invested in our community since 1907. Thank you to our customers for your continued trust and loyalty. And if you're looking for a more local and genuine banking experience, come visit with us. We're ready to help. Farmers State Bank of Oakley, member FDIC.
Hurry up, dude. The game's about to start.
Nothing beats spending the day watching the game with your buddies.
Dude, I'm literally right here. Let's do this.
Which is why a shelter insurance renter's policy is key to your winning game plan. It protects things your landlord's policy doesn't.
Dude, where's your TV?
What? No way, dude.
Like that flat screen TV that just got stolen.
If you need renter's insurance, see me, Shelter Agent Brent Wood in Goodland.
You ready? 1, 2, 3, 4!
It's Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
Being a Nebraska football fan these past few years and watching this team week in and week out, I kind of compare it to like doing drugs. You know you shouldn't do it, but you can't stop. Kids, don't do drugs.
The region's only local sports talk.
Not this again.
Yes, this again.
Broadcasting on Goodland's Rocket 102.5, simulcasting on Goodland's 730 Gold KLOE.
Guys everywhere.
Discussing it all from the preps.
Brumbaugh fakes the three, fires it from the corner. Yes!
To the pros.
They set up the screen. McLaughlin has it with Miners in front. McLaughlin's got a first down inside the 10, inside the 5. Touchdown, Denver.
The Blitz is presented by Pearl Chevrolet GMC, Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware, and F&B Bank, as well as the Insurance Agency, Farmer State Bank in Oakley, the Cowboy Corner Express, and Equity Bank of Hoxie, Quinter, and Grinnell.
Let's go to work.
Halliburton against Giannis. Halliburton, 3 seconds, puts it in. He put it in. 1 3/10.
Pitch number 77 for Kason Cedarstrom on Senior Day. Strike 3! Blew the fastball by him, and the Cowboys take game number 1 of this series. Chopper back up the middle, picked up there. They go to first. Here comes Cedarstrom sliding in. He's in safely, and the Cowboys walk it off here in the bottom of the 10th and sweep the Scott City Beavers on Senior Day.
The 1-0. Swanee rips one down the left field line. That's going to drop in there for a hit. Here's Carey to score. Boland's going to score. Green light is Brumbaugh. The relay throw home. It's high. The Huskers win it. Gabe Swanson is the hero.
Man, I'll tell you what, it seemed like it was a walk-off type of day yesterday in the world of baseball. My goodness. Walk-off wins for the Goodland Cowboys. Walk-off win for the Indiana Pacers there against the Bucks. And then the Nebraska Cornhusker baseball team with a walk-off win over Kansas State last night there. So night of walk-off wins in the world of sports. Good Wednesday morning, everybody. Glad you're with us here on this final day of April 2025. Hard to believe, but blew through the month of April just like that. And we're on to the month of May, the final month, starting tomorrow, the final month of pretty much the high school sports seasons. As things will be wrapped up by the end of May. But glad you're with us. Sorry if I sound a little hoarse, sound a little under the weather. I am a little bit. Got a little bit of a sore throat / slight cough. So I apologize for not sounding the best that I have here as of late. But we will push through here on a Wednesday show where we will welcome into the program our good friend Henry Chisholm from DNVR Sports there in Denver. He'll be talking about the Denver Broncos and the NFL draft that they had. We will be talking about a college baseball update. Get you also an update on the MLB. Sorry, the MLB on the NHL and NBA playoffs. We'll get you an update on that coming up as well in today's program. As always, the F&B Bank text line is open at 785-899-2222. If you'd like to be part of the Morning Blitz, would love for you to hear that. Oh yes, thank you, listener Andy. Colby with a walk-off win. I forgot about that. Colby High School with a walk-off win, I believe, in baseball, 3-2 in their games yesterday as well. So yeah, I forgot about that. Thank you, Andy. You're right. 3-2. All the runs coming in the bottom of the seventh, or in the seventh inning in that win of 3-2 for Colby over Cimarron. So that was for Colby High School baseball. So yes, a day of walk-offs yesterday in the world of sports. So we've got plenty more to get to here on the program. Get your thoughts and comments in like Andy did on the FB Bank text line at 785-899-2222. Would love to hear from you throughout the program here today. We got lots to recap from a very busy Tuesday in our sports world. Let's get to it all as best as we possibly can with the front page.
Read all about it. Read all about it.
The top stories of today.
I got the early edition, hot off the press.
It's the front page on the Morning Blitz.
Front page, really?
Well, we'll start in baseball and softball. First and foremost with Goodland. What a great day it was for Cowboy and Cowgirl baseball and softball, respectively, as it was a 4-0 day at Ray Dye Field as well as Centennial Park for the Goodland Cowboys and Cowgirls as they both swept the Scott City Beavers. The Cowboys had a very entertaining doubleheader with Scott City. Game number 1 was a game that was a pitcher's duel between Eloy Ruelas as well as Kason Cedarstrom. A very exciting pitcher's duel where Eloy Ruelas goes out there and works 6 innings, gives up just 3 hits and a run with 3 walks and a strikeout. Cowboys getting a clutch hit from senior Anthony Rubal to hit that one in and hit the RBI in to give the Cowboys lead in the bottom of the 6th. And then Case and Cedarstrom able to complete the complete game with a 3-hitter over a complete game, 7 innings with 9 strikeouts, no walks, no runs. Just a phenomenal performance. And also doing it, by the way, in just 77 pitches. Very efficient in the win for the Cowboys in game number 1. A 1-0 win, a game where there were 5 combined hits and 5 combined errors. It was a very low-scoring game, but the Cowboys get it done 1-0 over the Beavers in a game number 1. And then the offense came alive in game number 2 for both teams. You talk about a crazy back-and-forth, up-and-down game. The Cowboys get down 1-0 early, but Goodland goes on to score the next 9 runs. They lead 9-1 going into the 3rd. Scott City would proceed to score 9 runs themselves unanswered until the bottom of the 5th. When Goodland was down 10-9, they get 2 runs in the bottom of the 5th. A 2 RBI hit from Jared Quain gave the Cowboys the lead back 11-10 going into the 6th. No runs in the 6th, and then in the top of the 7th, Scott City pushes across to run to send it to extras, and we actually go all the way into the bottom of the 10th before the Goodland Cowboys get a 1-out triple from Case and Cedarstrom to left center field, and then able to come in and score on the RBI hit, or RBI, he was out, but even an RBI drive in there from Caleb Williams, and the Cowboys get the 12-11 win, sweeping the Scott City Beavers for the second time in the last 3 years. The Cowboys have beaten the Beavers, and that's a program that Goodland has not had a lot of success at. I mean, the Cowboys now, I think, Beavers have still won 7 of the last 12. But Goodland found some success here over the last couple of years, and a great senior night and a great senior performance, or great performances from the seniors. Talk about Case and Cedarstrom, his performance with that triple. He also came in relief because he had a few pitches left to use up in his pitch count. He pitched 2 innings of relief in that game. But Jared Quain, a senior, had 3 hits and 4 RBIs. Just a great performance. Anthony Rubal had another hit and RBI in that game. The seniors really came up and played well. Zach Thorson with a couple of big hits and a couple runs scored for the Cowboys seniors. And even the young guys, stepping up. Caleb Williams, Joseph Von Lintel, the sophomores, had some pretty big games in that series as well against Scott City. But the Cowboys pick up a couple of really big wins to improve their record back to 800, and they now sit at 6-4 in GWAC games. They've played well against the GWAC, and they've got one more series against Cimarron coming up here on May the 9th. I believe that's when that is scheduled. So as for Goodland softball, it was a exciting day as well. Kind of the same story. Game 1, Goodland absolutely blew the doors off Scott City, 16-1. The game was over in 4 innings. Alyssa Rickard had 3 RBIs. So did Destiny Gonzalez in that win in game 1. And Allie Cure goes out there and goes 4 innings, gives up just 1 run that wasn't earned on 2 hits with a couple of strikeouts. And it was a quick performance, and the Cowgirls win very easily, 16-1, out hitting Scott City 15-3 in that first game of the doubleheader. Game 2, a little bit more interesting. Scott City woke up, had 3 runs in the top of the first, and was actually ahead 6-3 going into the 4th. And then added to that, they went out 8-3 going into the bottom of the 4th inning. Goodland would score 5 runs there to tie it, and then 10 more runs the rest of the way in the 5th and the 6th, while Scott City got a couple of extra runs late. But Goodland pulls away and wins 18-10 despite getting out hit 13-12. It was 11 Scott City errors that hurt the Beavers in that second game, which the Cowgirls got good performances from Hayden Short, got a couple hits and a couple RBIs. Danny Fisher had 2 RBIs, so did Caden Smith. And Allie Cure picked up the win in the circle again, despite struggling a little bit more. 7 innings, 14 hits, 10 runs, 6 earned, 2 walks, but 10 strikeouts for Allison Cure, who picked up the win in game number 2 as well. So the Cowgirls get a sweep of Scott City yesterday at Ray Dye Field. They have improved their record to 5-9 overall, 4-4 in the GWAC. It's the first time this season that the Cowgirls have swept an opponent. So moving on, it was a more interesting and tougher day for Colby Eagle baseball and softball. Starting first with the baseball team, they were at home against Cimarron. Game 1, the Eagles were shut down, held to just 2 hits on a great performance by Breck Aberhoff, the starter for Cimarron. He goes out there, a complete game 2-hitter with 1 walk and 10 strikeouts. The Eagle bats could not solve him, and Colby gets beat 8-0 in that one, although it was pretty much a 3-0 game until the 7th when Cimarron piled on a few extra runs there for insurance. Game number 2, as we mentioned earlier, thanks to listener Andy for chiming in, that was a pitcher's duel through 6, and then Cimarron put up 2 runs in the top of the 7th. Not done. Colby gets 3 runs in the bottom, walking it off in a 3-2 victory. Colby got the hits back, winning 9-6 in that, and Cimarron committed 3 errors. Coben Curry had a 3-hit game in Game 2. So did Braden Foss, and both those guys drove in runs in the win. And a great performance from the freshman Connor Surmeyer. I think it's Surmeyer, excuse me, Connor Surmeyer. 6 1/3, 5 hits, 2 runs, none earned, with a walk and 4 Ks. A heck of performance by the freshman, as Braxton Withington was only just a great performance there from the freshman, as the Eagles get a 3-2 victory over the Cimarron Blue Jays yesterday at home. And then one more stop on high school baseball and softball. The Colby Eagles with a tough day on the road down at Cimarron as they were swept. So the 3rd time this season the Lady Eagles have been swept this season. They lose 13-12 in game number 1, despite out-hitting Cimarron 20-11. It was 7 Colby errors that did them in that first game that really hurt them badly. Jalissa Sabatka and Sadie Cheney, as well as Ryler Carter, even Briley Klein-Sorky and Mike Nolan, all 5 of those gals had 3 or more hits, and Sadie Cheney drove in 6 with a 3-bagger and a homer in the game 1 loss, 13-12. But the errors really hurt the Lady Eagles. And then game number 2, much low scoring, more of a pitcher's duel, but Cimarron prevailed. They got 3 runs early, and Colby could not overcome that after Cimarron got a run in the bottom of the 5th, and that was enough to hold on and get the win 4-3. Colby held to just 5 hits in that second game, while Cimarron had 6, and both teams struggled with errors in that one. Game 2, the best performance, Jalissa Sabatka with 2 hits and an RBI to her tally. And Carly Hills took the loss despite a really good pitching performance, 6 innings, 6 hits, 5 runs, 1 earned with 6 strikeouts and 2 walks. And so the Lady Eagles swept for the first time in GWAC play. In fact, it was their first losses of the GWAC season for the Colby Lady Eagles, if I'm not mistaken, as they dropped to 12-6 overall. And like I said, handed their first losses of league play. And Eagle Baseball, as I mentioned, with that split with Cimarron, they are now 11-5 overall, 5-3 in league play. So very exciting day of high school baseball and softball around the listening area. That is for sure. Moving on to the links yesterday, where the Hoxie Invitational took place at Hoxie Golf Club. It was pretty much a 2-horse race, although give credit to Greeley County and Hill City, who hung tough in that one. But Hoxie and Oakley duked it out for the top spot at the Hoxie Invitational. It was the host Indians that prevailed. They beat Hoxie 312 to 319 in the team scores. Hoxie had great performances. They had 6 guys all finished either tied for 10th or better. Noah Dowell shot a 71 to finish in second. Charlie Foote shot a 76 to finish in third. And then they had Sam Watkins finishing in 7th with an 81. So those were the top. And then Max Beckman in 10th with an 84 in that log jam at 84. A lot of guys finishing there. But Hoxie able to prevail. Easton Fink did shoot the low round. The Oakley star golfer shot a 69 yesterday to finish in first place. Manuel Mancia finishing in 8th place with an 82 for Oakley, but a couple of the guys tying for 10th. Like I said, kind of getting Sam Watkins and Charlie Foote in that top 10 really helped prevail the Indians to beat the Plainsmen yesterday at the Hoxie Invitational. Greeley County finishing in 3rd, led by Braxton Mangan, who shot a 77, and also Lincoln Shaver, who shot a 78 to finish 4th and 5th. And then Hill City coming in 4th with a 79 from AJ, I think it's Degas, is who finished in 6th place. Goodland was there as well. The JV was there. Goodland led by Bo Weibel, I believe. He finished with a 88 to finish in 23rd, and Goodland finishing in 5th in the team standings. So Once again, Hoxie, your champion of the Hoxie Invitational with a 312, 7 shots better than the rivals from Oakley in yesterday's Hoxie Invitational on golf. All right, more here on the front page from looking back at a very busy Tuesday in local sports. Let's go to the big leagues where the Royals and the Rockies were both in action yesterday. The Royals opening up a series down in Tampa Bay against the Rays at beautiful George Steinbrenner Field. Or is it? It's not. Yeah, it is George Steinbrenner Field. Of course, the home of the Yankees during spring trainings, where the Rays are playing their home games. The Royals get it done 3-1 yesterday. Got a really good performance from Michael Lorenzen, who won his 50th career game yesterday. Not with the Royals, but overall in his career, 50th career game. He allowed just 1 run over 6 innings, and he got great offensive support from Salvador Perez, Kyle Isabel, and Freddie Fermin, who all had RBIs. Fermin had 3 hits, by the way, in that win. And also, Bobby Witt Jr. had another hit. He went 1 for 3, and that extended his hit game now to 20 games straight that Bobby Witt Jr. has had a hit in a game. That, by the way, is the longest hitting streak in the majors to this point in time. Bobby Witt batting .316 at this point in time in the season. He is really batting well. And once again, you see it. It's another great pitching performance from the Royals. And even though they didn't get a whole lot of offense, they still find a way to get the win. With that win, the Royals get back to 500 at 15-15. By the way, Carlos Estevez picking up his 8th save of the season already. He's been very, very good since coming over from, I think he was with the Angels previously. I know he was at the Rockies a while ago, but I think he was at the Angels last. He's probably bounced around somewhere. But since he came in this year, he's been a great addition to the back end of that pin for the Royals, who, once again, there's not a lot of room for error. We talked about this. I talked about this on the broadcast yesterday for Goodland Baseball. But when you play a lot of low-scoring games and you get in a lot of pitchers' duels and you don't get, if you can't get the run support that you need, it puts a lot of pressure on your starters and relievers to go out there and keep the score at a minimum. That's one thing, the Cowboys, they've gotten great pitching performances, but the offense just hasn't been there to push them over the top to get the wins in some games. Same thing can be said for the Royals. They've gotten unbelievable pitching performances throughout the entire season. That rotation and that bullpen have been very, very good, as expected. But the offense, as also expected, didn't know exactly where the runs were going to come from. And it's been a little hit and miss at times this year. But the Royals, like I said, 3-1 winners over Tampa Bay. Just getting enough offense to help that pitching staff, which has been absolutely fantastic all season long. And a final stop here on the front page, the Rockies with another loss, this time falling to the Braves 8-2 at home. Once again, the Rockies get some run support. I don't want to say it was amazing. A 2-hit game for Michael Tolia, including his 3rd home run of the season, coming in the bottom of the 2nd, but they could not keep pace with the Braves, who put up 2 in the 2nd, 3 in the 4th, and a few more runs sprinkled throughout the rest of the way. They out-hit the Rockies 14-6, and Colorado also committed 2 errors. Herman Marquez dropped to 0-5, 5 1/3, 7 runs, all earned on 11 hits with a walk and a strikeout for Herman Marquez. If you're not going to get a lot of strikeouts and you're not going to get a lot of ground balls, it's really, really hard to win at Coors Field. It really is. Not that the Braves dominated with the home runs. In fact, they didn't have one at all last game. That's just, in my personal opinion, it's hard to win that without keeping the ball on the ground. But the Rockies are in a bad spot. 4-25 now on the season. Once again, that continues to be their worst start in franchise history, worst start for an NL team ever in the history of the history of the National League, 150 years almost. And I thought I'm going to look back and see what is the worst record ever posted in baseball. And I'm not saying we got to start worrying about that because, we're only about, a month or so into the season, a little over a month into the season here. But 4 wins over the course of almost 30 games, that's not good. I mean, that's 30 games. You've got about, it's a fifth of the season almost is gone. Pretty close. Almost a fifth of the season is gone. You have 4 wins. You take that times 5, that would get you to 20 wins. I mean, if they stayed on this pace, If the Rockies stayed on this pace, which I will be surprised if they do, I think there's going to come a time where they catch a little bit of a heater. They win a couple of series, and you blink and they're going to be up over 10 wins. But, the worst record ever posted, post 1900, mind you, was by the New York Mets in 1962 when they went 40-120. That was the worst record in the history of Major League Baseball. 40-120 back in 1962 by the New York Metropolitans. I don't mean to be negative, but I think we're going to have to start watching this. I think we're going to have to start following this and seeing it. This might be a possibility. This record might get broken. It might get broken. I know there's the Cleveland Spiders had a worse record prior. I think it was like 1888 or something like that. But I'm thinking 1900 and after. I mean, in the past 100 plus years, the worst record is 40-120, and I don't know. I'm starting to think like unless the Rockies catch something, it's still early in the season, but man, that record might be in jeopardy of the worst record ever in Major League Baseball. 4-25 through the first 29 games. And they've got the Braves again here tonight. This is not tonight. It's actually this afternoon as they try to avoid a sweep at the hands of Atlanta. That's a 1:10 Mountain Time first pitch on AM 730 KLOE if you'd like to tune in and listen. The Royals play their second game against the Rays here this evening at 6:05 Central. And that game, of course, you can listen to on AM 790 KXXX for the Rays and the Royals. But yeah, like I said, I'm thinking as we wrap up the front page here, I mean, if you're thinking about it, the Rockies with 4 wins through the first fifth of the season, and if you take that times 5, that gets you to 20. I mean, not that I don't think they're going to have, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. I mean, at some point in time, right? I mean, you're just going to be like, my gosh, this season is horrendous. How much fight do you have? Everyone's whooping up on us. I don't know. I mean, I'm serious. The worst record in Major League Baseball might be in jeopardy with the Colorado Rockies this year. It's been bad. I mean, everyone knew it was going to be a rough year for the Rockies. Everybody knew it because the Rockies didn't do anything in the offseason. Absolutely nothing. And it's showing. And they can't keep guys. There's guys. They're key. I don't say key guys, but some guys can't stay healthy. It's just a really rough time for the Rockies. Really rough time. 4-25. Like I said, the worst. The number to look for is 40. They have to get 36 more wins over the course of the season to tie the worst record in Major League Baseball history since 1990. Since 1900. 1900, excuse me. So they have to get 36 more wins. Is that possible? I don't know. That is going to be a fascinating question to follow as the summer continues and gets rolling, actually. So, all right, let's get to our first break. We'll come back. We're going to talk some NFL and the NFL draft from the Denver Broncos perspective. Our good friend Henry Chisholm is going to join us from DNVR Sports. That's next. You're listening to a Wednesday edition of the Morning Blitz.
Get ready for powerful deals at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Right now, drive home a 25 GMC Sierra 1500 Turbo Max with 0.9% financing or up to $7,800 in purchase allowance. Step up in luxury in a 2025 Sierra 1500 Denali and get up to $5,250 in purchase allowance. Or take on any job with the 25 Sierra 2500 with 3.9% APR or up to $2,700 in purchase allowance. These offers won't last. Rush into Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland today or shop online at hurlchev.com.
It's time for a check of the markets with the Anderson Trade Group on the Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio Network.
Good morning. This is Kate Thompson with the Anderson Trade Group. Today is Wednesday, April 30th. On the overnight last night, made corn higher 1 1/4 at 4.61 3/4. July down 1/4 cent at 4.70. September down 1 3/4 at 4.33. December corn down 1 3/4 at 4.42 3/4. Base soybeans down 9 cents on the overnight at 10.32. July down 10 1/2 at 10.42 1/4. August down 9 1/2 at 10.36 3/4. September beans down 9 3/4 at 10.13 1/4. The Chicago wheat May contract lower 1/4 cent at 5.05 1/2. July up 1/4 at 5.25 3/4. September down 1 cent at 5.39 1/2. December down 1 1/4 at 5.62 3/4. Kansas City wheat, the May contract lower 1 1/4 at 5.14. July down 3/4 at 5.30 1/4. September down a half cent to 5.46. December down a quarter at 5.70. On the stock market this morning, the Dow down $342 at 40,316. The S&P down 73 at 5,510. The Nasdaq down $357 at 19,284. Gold lower $25 an ounce at 3,308. Crude oil down 83 cents a barrel at 59.59. If you have any questions about marketing grain or would like to talk about risk management options, give our call Ottawa a call. John Hankey or John Stiles at 970-744-4484. Or in our Kansas City office, myself, Tom Pluto, Jared Law, or Tyler Ghosh at 913-748-3000.
The Anderson Trade Group, proud market partners with Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio. Find out more at andersongrain.com. The risk of loss through trading futures and or options is substantial, and each investor and or trader must consider whether this is a suitable investment. Past performance, whether actual or indicated, is not indicative of future results. The Anderson Trade Group has no guarantee that the advice given will result in profitable trades.
Farmer Amaranth. 4 counts of yield theft, resistance to groups 2, 4, 9.
You ain't got nothing on me, man.
We've been surveilling you. And now we've got Tough 5EC, a tank mix partner that'll make sure you and your gang of resistant weeds never see the daylight again.
Crack down on repeat offenders. Add Tough 5EC to your post-emergence tank mix. Learn more at toughnweeds.com. Always
all your building needs. And when the work's done, fire up the fun with their wide selection of grills, smokers, and griddles from Traeger, Weber, and Blackstone. Stop by Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware in Goodland and Colby, your one-stop shop for spring projects, big and small.
From the locker room to your morning commute, it's all sports, all the time.
It's all they talk about.
This is the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
All my friends take good care of me. Wherever I go, they bring me home.
7:35 Mountain Time, 8:35 in the Central Time Zone. It's a Wednesday, April the 30th. Interesting weather now in the tri-state region, especially here in Goodland. Looking outside the windows of the KKCI studio, a little heavy fog. Probably can't. I mean, you know, we're not that far from the water tower, honestly, and I can't really see the water tower that clearly. And that's what, maybe 100, 150 yards away, maybe. So a heavy fog in the area. Still going to be a nice day, they say. Sunshine and 72, the expected weather today here in the tri-state region. So we'll see how it all pans out. But right now, a little interesting, cloudy, a little foggy. In fact, quite foggy. Visibility only to about, I don't know, maybe a quarter of a mile at most at this point in time. So be safe out there if you're out traveling around. All right, let's go to the phones, the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware Hotline. We're pleased to be joined by our good friend from DNVR Broncos. That would be Henry Chisholm, who joins now. Henry, good morning. How are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Had a chance to go over to the Nuggets game last night, see them beat the Clippers.
Ooh.
Take the 3-2 lead in the series, so can't complain today.
How was the atmosphere last night? It looked like it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty electric. You forget just how good the fans are here. You know, there's a couple games a year. You know, the Lakers come to town, for example, where you only have maybe 70% of the crowd on your side just because the Lakers fan base is so big. But when you have a team like the Clippers who don't have a fan base like that, that's a pretty fun arena to be in.
No, absolutely. Win there for the Nuggets. Are you surprised? We'll just stay on this topic. Are you surprised the Nuggets have had the struggles they've had this year? Or you think they're right where they need to be? Do you think they're going to advance the next round? Where are you sitting on the Nuggets right now?
That's a good question. I think you're definitely surprised by the struggles. If you just take yourself back to October, you know, when the season started, the way things panned out was a bit of a surprise. I'm pretty sure this is the first year in, I want to say 8 years that they didn't hit their Vegas projected win total. So they've been just overachieving, and eventually getting to the championship, of course. So this is kind of the first little setback year, which was bound to happen eventually. But yeah, to fire coach, fire GM with 3 games to go in the season is pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, they're playing about as well as you could expect against, honestly, a pretty good Clippers team. Well, I think they won 18 of their last 21 before the playoffs. So any sort of lead in the series is a good thing against those guys, and we'll see what happens if they can get out of this round.
How are you feeling about them? There was times this year when experts were saying, that I think the Nuggets are probably the only team that could maybe knock off the Thunder at this point in time. Do you feel that way still, or do you feel like it's going to be a stretch for them to make it back to the finals?
Yeah, it's still probably a stretch, but I mean, it's a team that has won a championship before. They've had a few changes around the edges, but at the same time, you still have Nikola Jokic. You've got Jamal Murray, who had a 40-point night last night. And if you get big nights from Jamal 4 times in a 7-game series, you're probably going to win the series. It's just, are you still going to be getting 4 of 7? Is it 2 of 7? Because as much as Aaron Gordon's a really good player, Michael Porter Jr. can be a really good player. They're guys who you feel good if they get 20 points. You just need Jamal to be what he was during that finals run and what he's been in other playoff series and what he was in the bubble. You've seen it plenty of times. You just need that to keep happening if you're going to have a chance to make a run.
What was the mood like when he possibly rolled that ankle? He was kind of hunched over there in the fourth quarter. That had to be a little bit of an interesting moment, I'm sure, in the arena.
It was. And, I looked over to my friends and said, he knows he's hunting 40. Or I think at that point he might have already had 40. And when you have 40 points, you can get a little bit of attention when you do something like that. And it's not that I don't buy that there was something going on, but just knowing Jamal, he really likes to get fired up. He can be a little bit dramatic in those ways. He loves when somebody says something to him and he gets to go down and take a shot. I don't want to say he was milking it, but I think he really likes to see the crowd nervous about him.
Final question on last night's NBA game. Once again, Henry Chisholm, our guest here, DNVR Broncos on the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware Hotline. Did you have to work that game, or did you go there just as a fan to watch?
No, I just went there as a fan.
Nice.
I'm pretty lucky. I have a couple friends. So I grew up in Montana, who are from my same hometown, Columbia Falls, up in Montana, who now live here. So we split some season tickets, and it was a fun night just going as a fan.
I was gonna say that's worked out really well for a couple of people from Montana. That's worked out good getting some season tickets to the Nuggets. It
really has. Yeah, we watch a lot of basketball.
No, that's all right. Good deal. Henry Chisholm, our guest here. His expertise is actually in the Denver Broncos. He covers them for DNVR Sports. Let's go back to the draft. Denver had a solid draft, I would say, overall. What were your thoughts on the draft as a whole from the Denver Broncos perspective, Henry?
It was an interesting one because for the months leading up to the draft, you read through every mock draft, all the rankings, all the big boards, and you try to figure out where is the value going to be. There's so many tight ends in the draft. Could there be a tight end who deserves to be a top 30 pick that you wind up getting at pick 51? This was not a draft where the Broncos picked up value in terms of what the pre-draft rankings were. They identified the players they wanted and went after the players they wanted, but they weren't necessarily the players that, if you read the ESPN pre-draft big board, that you'd expect them to be taking at the places where they took them. At the same time, you look at every player they drafted, and it's pretty easy to see what they're trying to do. Whether it's, RJ Harvey in the second round, the running back from UCF, crazy explosive, some of the most production in the country on top of some of the best efficiency in the country. You can't complain about those two things. Then you see he had the home run hitting speed, and you're like, okay, you're looking for a guy who can break this offense open, potentially a guy who could be that potentially Joker type role where you get him out of the backfield, throwing the ball, get him the ball in space and kind of let him work. You've had some backs like that before in Sean Payton offenses. And, that's the vision there. You look at Pat Bryant, the third-round pick, who a lot of people said might be a later day 3 pick, the receiver from Illinois, who was very productive, second-team All-Big Ten performer, for notably Emeka Egbuka, the second receiver taken in the draft was a third team All Big Ten performer. So when you just look at the production, Pat Bryant has him there, just the NFL skill set. A little bit questionable given that he ran a 4.61 40-yard dash. But you look through guys that Sean Payton has drafted in the past at receiver, there have been some guys with some disappointing 40s who did well in other categories that Sean said, hey, we can make this work. Like, Marcus Colston being one of those guys, Michael Thomas being one of those guys. So very interesting draft because you really can see pretty clearly what the idea is for each of these players. But at the same time, the general consensus is maybe you could have gotten them around later and gotten what the NFL world would say is better value.
No, I would agree. I mean, the RJ Harvey pick to me was interesting because, yes, he is an explosive back, but I don't think he was there was plenty of other backs that were probably higher rated above him that they didn't want to take. So they must really see something in him that they really like and know that what he has in his toolbox is going to work really good for what they want to do.
Yeah, they haven't had a 100-yard rusher in the past 2 years. Nathaniel Hackett was the head coach last time they had a 100-yard rusher in a game, and that was Latavius Murray, who at that point in his career you really had to be feeding him the ball to get him to 100 yards. RJ Harvey's a guy who can get you 100 yards any given week, mostly because he's capable of scoring from anywhere. You put a 50-yard run in there, 100 could be on the way. You put a 70-yard run in there, you better be getting to 100 in the game. So when you have somebody that explosive, and again, that efficient, he's productive between the tackles as well. You go back through the numbers, he's just as productive in the A and B gaps as he is when you give him the ball outside. So because of his versatility in running the ball, you can see how you're able to get him on the field over and over and over again and feed him in different ways and kind of figure out what's working and what isn't. It is a Sean Payton offense, which means that the lead back is probably getting 60% of the touches. You're probably getting 40% for your number two back. And I think that's part of the reason you don't see a 100-yard rusher in the past 2 years in Denver, just because nobody's getting the ball consistently enough. At the same time, though, you just didn't have the explosion to potentially use 60% of the touches to get to 100 yards. And that's something that RJ Harvey brings to the table.
Henry Chisholm, our guest, DNVR Broncos, talking in the Broncos draft. I love what you guys do on DNVR.com talking about the film room. How does you did a story on this? How does Pat Bryant fit in that Denver offense, despite being a guy they might have reached for? But he was a really productive guy at Illinois and a big wide receiver as well.
He is. He's just so smooth. That's what stands out to me. So crafty. He plays like a veteran. And part of the reason is because he is a veteran. He's played quite a bit of college football. But it's things like the balls up the sideline. He'll get a bunch of balls up the sideline where he gets the defensive back turned around, and he might not create the most separation either because, he's not the fastest guy, whatever it may be. But what he does a great job of doing is tracking the ball when the defender's back is turned. And then he'll just give this little one-handed shove. And it's not a big enough shove to get called. He always gets away with it. But just like a little tap on the chest that just throws the corner off enough that he's able to reach up, grab the ball over his head, pull it down. And there's just so many little things like that you see over and over again, just crafty moves that a lot of college players don't have. And again, when you talk about the draft, usually you're combining things like, what's his production, what's his 40 time, and how polished is he? Is a route runner, his hands, those sorts of things. And you have this little triangle and you're trying to maximize it. If you throw that way of looking at things out and say, is this guy somebody who has a special skill set? Then maybe that's where you get to drafting a guy like Pat Bryant. Because, you look at the measurements at 6'2", 204, the exact same as Cooper Kupp coming out. 4'6", 140, Cooper Kupp also 4'6", 1. You look at the arm length, the other testing, like that's what you're trying to do here is find a guy who may not have the athletic traits that stand out, but is just so smooth, so smart as a route runner, so smart at the top of route, so crafty in the way that he attacks the ball that you do have somebody who can be productive, can get open for you over and over again in different ways and really play the wide receiver position at an NFL level. And there are plenty of teams who would say, hey, we'll ditch some of that stuff in exchange for just more pure speed because we can teach our receiver to do those sorts of things. A lot of the time, you never teach him to do that sort of stuff. You might be able to get him to be an NFL receiver, but to have the upside, really, which is a crazy word to be talking about a guy who doesn't really have the athletic profile that most teams would like, to have that upside, you need to have some of that veteran savviness, some of that polish. You need to be able to play the wide receiver position at a really high level. You know that you're going to get that out of him. The only question is, what happens with him just because of the athletic traits.
Henry Chisholm, our guest here from DNVR Broncos. It's funny, we've gone, a good 10 minutes here talking about the Broncos. I haven't talked about the number one pick, and that was Jahdae Barron, the cornerback. How much was it a surprise for you guys there at DNVR that a cornerback was taken with the first selection, considering what you guys already have in that defensive backfield?
It was a surprise. We've got our live show going during the draft. Former NFL receiver Benny Fowler, who caught Peyton Manning's last pass, was on with us. It was shock. That was not what we expected. Just because, again, the Broncos had one hole on their roster, and that hole was at running back. And for them to not get any sort of offensive player was a surprise, especially with Marion Hampton on the board, Travion Henderson on the board, a couple of running backs who we had thought would be pretty good fits with the Broncos. To not take them, to not get a receiver, it was a little bit shocking. But what they did do is add a defensive back who has really high upside, versatile piece, can move them around the formation, and hopefully kind of unlock the things that you can do in the secondary. And you're talking about the Thorpe Award winner, the award that goes to the best defensive back in the nation, which he notably won over Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter finished second in the voting there. That was the only major award that Travis Hunter didn't win. So Jahdae Barron, cornerback from Texas, mostly nickel. It's a surprising pick at first, but then you look at it and say, hey, if that's your best player on the board, that's probably a pretty good pick, because running back historically is not a position where you need to be taking your guy in the first round. You look across the league at some of the second round running backs, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, who've been so successful. Although everybody was kind of hoping, like, boom, let's get this over with. Let's get the best running back available. It probably was more responsible to go get a better player than the running backs that were on the board, because you still can go get an RJ Harvey in the second round.
Henry, of the four guys taken after Pat Bryant, which one of those guys do you think has the best impact probability over the course of their career?
It's tough. Savion Jones is probably the easy answer, the edge rusher from LSU. He was the next guy pick after those other guys. Edge rusher, 6'5", 280, but they're going to bounce him inside and let him play a little bit defensive end in their 3-4 scheme, which I think fits him pretty well. Just given the size, I think that he's probably going to be a guy who at the very least is a rotational player for the Broncos for, a handful of years. And with the upside that he has explosively as a former edge rusher, it's exciting. But I'd also throw out there Caleb Lohner, the tight end from Utah, who they took with their 7th round pick. He hardly played any college football. 6'7", a little bit over 6'7". I think played 57 snaps of college football in his career, had 4 catches, 4 touchdowns. Mostly was a college basketball player. Played at Baylor. That's probably where he got the most work. Played some at Utah as well. But, those are the guys who can be a lot of fun at tight end. You think back to Antonio Gates and Denver had Julius Thomas. The last time Sean Payton drafted a college basketball player was Jimmy Graham, who turned out to be a great tight end in the NFL. So, is he going to turn to one of those guys? You're probably asking a lot for a 7th round pick. But, he was the better basketball player than any of those guys, so at least you have a solid starting point.
He once again is Henry Chisholm of DNVR Sports. He covers the Denver Broncos for those guys there. Thank you so much for the time, Henry. As always, great stuff. We'll catch up soon, all right? Hopefully you get back to another playoff game here before it's all said and done with the Nuggets.
Hopefully we've got another month of them.
We'll see, buddy. Thank you so much for the time.
Anytime.
Once again, great stuff there from Henry Chisholm of DNVR Sports covering the Denver Broncos. He's got great stuff there talking about Denver and the draft that was for them. We'll have him back on when we get closer to some mini camp stuff and have some thoughts on the Denver Broncos. But good stuff there. If missed any of that interview, of course, the podcast is always available after the show, and go back and watch it on YouTube as well on NWKS Radio on YouTube. We'll take a break. We'll come back, and we will wrap up the show with our final segment next. You're listening to the Morning Blitz here on a Wednesday.
The roof's worn out, and it needs replaced. Who you gonna call?
Roof Masters! Roof Masters Roofing at Colby has been your premier roofing contractor for over 40 years, offering free estimates on all types of roofs, as well as seamless rain gutters and vinyl siding. So give us a call today. What's that number, Jake?
462-6642. I think you better call
Roof Masters!
Looking for insurance that actually puts you first? At the insurance agency in downtown Goodland, we're independent, which means we work for you. Whether it's auto, home, crop, or business, we shop top carriers to get you the best coverage at the best price. No pushy sales, just honest advice from people who live right here in your community. Give us a call today at 785-899-5011 or stop by 1020 Main in Goodland, and let's get you covered. The insurance agency. Insurance the way it should be.
If you're shopping for a banking institution, visit with Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, and Quinter, Kansas. The Equity Bank is heavily invested in local business and activities contributing in many ways back to their community. Their employees are involved with many organizations and area events. Plus, a lot of experience comes with that staff. You'll find valuable local assistance when you bank at the Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, Quinter, and other locations in Western Kansas. The Equity Bank, member FDIC.
Bringing you the best regional sports talk.
Well, I'm awake and I speak English, so yeah, I do know what you're saying.
From scores to stories, the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
All right, we got about 5 minutes to the top of the hour here on a Wednesday, April the 30th, final day of April 2025. We'll be in the month of May. When we get back on tomorrow's program, which programming note we will have Colby Community College baseball head coach Ryan Carter join us tomorrow and talk about the Trojan baseball team as they get set to head into their final season of the final series of the regular season and get ready for postseason baseball coming their way here in the coming weeks. Another reminder, folks, to go to nwksradio.net. That's nwksradio.net. That's the place to get your tickets for the upcoming show here on Saturday at the Colby Event Center, The Frontmen. Should be a great show. Over 30 number one hits, country legends, just absolutely amazing. So come on, if you like Lone Star, Little Texas, Restless Heart, the lead singers for those guys, all going to be at the show there on Saturday. Also got Brock Wagner, Dylan Gerard, some really great talented guys. Going to be a great fun show. Get your tickets now at nwksradio.net. All right, getting to baseball real quick, college baseball from last night. Interesting night last night for Kansas and Kansas State, some midweek games. KU faced off against their rivals from Missouri, and Kansas with a 9-3 win, putting themselves at 36-10 on the season. You never know what to expect in these midweek series just because you're kind of going Johnny Holstaff, and you just don't know what to expect, but a great performance. Brady Council, third baseman for the Jayhawks last night, had 2 hits and 5 RBI to power the Jayhawks there at Hoagland Park to now 36-10 record. And then Kansas State and Nebraska played themselves a doozy of a game last night. Competitive all the way through. Nebraska actually led 4-2 going into the 7th. K-State would actually take the lead 5-4 going into the 8th, and then in the 9th, Kansas State would get an insurance run. They were up 6-4, and Nebraska loaded the bases, and a walk-off double from Gabe Swanson drove in 3, and the Huskers get the win 7-6 over Kansas State last night. Good game for Sam Flores, had 3 RBIs in his performance there for Kansas State, but Gabe Swanson once again with the big hit for Nebraska to get the win. You look at the rankings, D1 baseball, which we're going to get our good friend Eric Sorensen on here soon. I got to get him on and have him talk about the season that is. But you look at the Big 12, Kansas currently sitting at the 20th spot in the RPI. They're the 25th ranked team in the country. They've kind of bounced in and out of the 25 spot. It's been a great year for Coach Fitzgerald and then the KU baseball program. But they're a top 20 RPI team. You feel like they're a lock in the postseason at this point in time. Kansas State sitting at around 45, kind of in that area where in the gray, yeah, they're in. They might not be. They're the 5th best team RPI-wise in the Big 12. Just behind Arizona State. So we'll see. They've still got some work to do, but they're sitting in decent position. And then Nebraska got plenty of work to do. They are 67th. They've got plenty of work to do. They're going to have to more than likely go into their Big Ten baseball tournament at the end of the regular season and win a handful of games, if not win the whole thing, or to have a chance to make the postseason. Just too much of an up-and-down year for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. But it's been a great year for KU baseball for sure. And for Kansas State, been a solid year, 26-19, a little bit of a tougher year. And kind of after a hot start, kind of has faded off here down the stretch a little bit. But some great baseball last night in the collegiate ranks. All right, with that, let's get to the walk-off.
High drive, deep left, grand slam! And back lifts his ball high, deep to right. How about a walk-off Gray? Thomas to the 10, Denver's going on to New England. They win it on the first play of overtime. Mahomes flings it. It's there! Hardman! Jackpot, Kansas City!
Walking it off, let's get you an update on the playoffs from the NBA and the NHL from last night. The Nuggets, as you heard with Henry Chisholm, with a 131-115 win over the Clippers behind Jamal Murray's 43-point game. The Nuggets now lead that series 3-2. The Celtics win the series over the Magic 120-89. Pistons hanging around against the Knicks. They take game 5, but the Knicks still lead the series 3-2. And the Pacers beat the Bucks 119-118. So the Bucks have got a lot of issues with their salary cap and what to do with Giannis Antetokounmpo. By the way, had 30 points, 20 boards, and 13 assisted Antetokounmpo last night. Crazy. Still, though, lots of offseason work to do for the Bucks ahead. Tonight, you've got a couple of games on the western half of the NBA Finals. Warriors-Rockets in game number 5. Also game 5 of T-Wolves and Lakers. Golden State and Minnesota could close out those series with wins this evening. And then in the NHL from last night, Maple Leafs are shut out by the Senators. Toronto still leading that series 3-2. Hurricanes over the Devils to win that series 5-4. Golden Knights beat the Wild in overtime 3-2. The Golden Knights lead that series 3-2. And it's the Oilers over the Kings. That series 3-2. Very competitive. Tonight, 3 more games. Canadiens, Capitals, Panthers, Lightning, and Blues, Jets. By the way, the Capitals and the Panthers could advance to the next round with wins tonight in the NHL playoffs. So there you go, an update for you. All right, that'll do it for our program today. Thank you so much to Henry Chisholm for joining us on the show. Thanks to you for tuning in and listening, no matter which way you are doing so. We appreciate that. We'll be back again tomorrow in 23 hours for another edition of the Morning Blitz. We'll see you then. Have a good one.
Rocket 102.5 is KKCI.